What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. Time to get a little bit crazy with your boys, right? Texans Talking Football coming to you live. SAJ, Loudmouth of the South, is coming to you from an oldie but a goodie, one we have not used on this show before. I'm coming to you from the Chiefs Auto Parts Studios here in San Antonio, Texas.
Man, you were telling me about that one. I don't remember that auto store. That's how old it is. Like they closed up.
Yep.
We were talking right when I started driving. So I don't remember going to that parts house with my dad. So that's a classic one right there. Nice.
Shows you how bad it was.
And me, I'm BD. Today I'm going to be coming at you, Jason. Kind of in the same vein, and kind of because of our trip back from Houston, kind of a place we passed. I'm going to come from the San Antonio Raceway.
Oh, I hate you. It brings back good and bad memories. But thankfully, you didn't say San Antonio Speedway down on Highway 16, where you had that humongous divot across both lanes about at the 8th mile mark, which could have killed several people. That place was just bad. So let me check our feeds here. We definitely
We're on Facebook
because
I've already shared. So
yeah, I'm looking and it's not coming up on my end, but I'm also trying to do a show here. Big surprise, right? But so again, just as our header says, there's a lot to talk about tonight. There is so much going on. What do you want to start out with tonight, Brian? Should we talk about a recap of this weekend? It's a wonderful game.
Yeah, let's do
What's
that.
up,
Let's talk
KJ?
about UFL recap.
Thank you so much, by the way.
KJ?
Thank you. It was an important win for us. I'm sorry that things went down the way that they did. I would have liked a much more decisive win, but definitely, it wasn't like Houston was not in it. They were definitely busting their tails, and they gave us everything that we could handle.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm surprised, not surprised. I think Houston has had opportunities for flashes of greatness, and they've got some good ingredients there. I think there's some bad ingredients also that they need to kind of weed out. And so maybe next season we can get rid of some of those elements that are holding the team back, and Houston can rise back to the greatness that they were last season.
Yeah. They've got a really good defense. And they came out with a fantastic scheme. I know kind of the first few drives, Brahmas pretty much moved it down the field at will up until the 10-yard line for those first two drives where we fumbled it. And they were talking about it on the broadcast. We went back and watched it. Of course, we were at the game. So, I always go back and rewatch the games, and they were saying that it wasn't a turnover more than it was a takeaway from Houston, because they were hitting the ball right on it and knocking it loose, and it was San Antonio not wrapping it up like they should. And then obviously that drive for the field goal. Once again we marched it down and then kind of got stopped. AJ Smith was blaming kind of the communications.
Boy, was he ever!
Oh yeah, he was pissed. But who knows? Who knows if that was really it or if they just called a bad play. But after those three drives, I don't know if Houston just kind of like changed their scheme or what, but just could not move the ball. Dormady was running for his life. He was, the line wasn't holding as good and just couldn't get it off. And, we had a lot of drops. And yeah, as Robert says down here, old Blind Dino didn't help us out at all for a couple of those plays.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Houston, credit to them. They gave us a hell of a game, and they made it difficult for us to move the ball. So much so that, had to go to our third string quarterback to kind of change the pace and actually get something done.
So I'm going to share a picture, right? There was a contested call pretty much right towards the very beginning of the game when San Antonio had the ball and was driving down the field and pretty much was kind of in command, right? So check this out. This is a screenshot I took while I was watching the game afterwards. This guy right here, that's James J. Noakes. He's the social media manager for San Antonio. Look at that expression on his face.
That was the expression when the refs called that pass incomplete when it should have been complete. And even on review, Blandino was looking at shadows or something, and who knows what he was looking at. But yeah, that was a bad call. And a bad review as well. But yeah, Noakes' face said everything that we were saying on the sidelines.
Yeah, and so again, social media manager, he's got the camera right there. He showed that call should have been reversed. That should have been a reception. Now, is that a game-changing play? Not necessarily, but it goes to show that, I mean, again, we're still struggling with calls that are kind of questionable. It puts doubt in the fears or in the fans' minds when you don't know what is actually going to be called and what's not. I know we saw holding on our side that we were calling out, right? We saw holding on their side, and if they're not going to call it, cool. Be consistent across the board. Don't call the penalties.
Well, I think at one point I yelled that at our offensive line. When they were running up there, I was like, just hold them. They're not going to call it anyways.
Yeah. Well, and if you go back and you actually watch the game footage, they had God, what the heck was his name? I can't remember his name right now. But they did have one of our guys mic'd up. And he specifically said, watch out. I believe it was watch out for 56. He's holding all game. And it wasn't, and that's not something that a player normally says unless something's funky is going on. Rig, you're 100% right. There was some holding going on in the stands, and I'm sorry you had to experience that.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
So kind of back to like the cat. We were talking about. I was kind of thinking about it. Why doesn't the UFL? They've got a bunch of people with cameras on the sidelines. Mm-hmm. Why don't they have somebody right on the sideline looking down the field, for that shot, whether it's in or not? Because all Dean was using was the sky cam.
Yeah.
And he wasn't looking at anything that kind of like in the where Noakes was at, just a shot straight down the sideline. Something like that, you could tell 100% whether it's a catch or not.
Yeah. And so, I'm really surprised because I know the NFL uses a lot of sideline cameras and stuff like that. I mean, why aren't we?
And they've got pylon cams. They've got all kinds of stuff. So
right, why aren't we incorporating some of this technology into the UFL? Yeah. Why are we switching out communication devices from the XFL style equipment that worked great last year to this new style that they got at Radio Shack for like $29.99 for 5 of them?
I mean, and honestly, dude, like just sitting there watching the coaches on like a walkie-talkie, it just looks ridiculous. Like,
yeah,
give them a radio, give them a headset. I mean, I know they've got their channels to, because they got to mic them up for the broadcast, and they got to talk to the booth, and they got all kinds of stuff going on. But surely they can, there's some way they can incorporate it so they don't have to use a walkie-talkie to communicate. It just looks kind of funny.
Well, and I know for a fact that like our local University of Texas, San Antonio, UTSA, they have their own headsets. And that's not a D1 school. Not yet anyways, right? That's a D2 school.
No, they're still D1.
Are they D1?
Yeah.
Okay, well, they're a small D1.
Yeah, they're like Conference USA D1.
Yeah. Right here? You're right, man. The equipment cost is going to be a little bit higher. But and then that could be, I mean, this is, again, this is kind of the reset year with, the UFL combining or becoming the UFL, right? So maybe that's something that we're going to see in the future. I hope.
I would hope they would do that. This obviously, like you said, this is the first year of this merger experiment, pulling stuff from both leagues. They're going to figure out what works, what doesn't work. Hopefully they, figure out that, hey, this new communication system isn't very good. Let's go to another one. Let's up our camera game a little bit. Kind of a bunch of different stuff. So, I'm willing to give a lot of leeway this first year, just trying to figure out. But there's a lot of stuff that we would like to see tightened up a little bit come year 2.
Yeah, and I'm not being as gracious as BD is. I mean, I think I'd like to see it a little bit sooner rather than later. But even letting me know,
we're 7 games into the season, so
Oh yeah, we're not getting anything for Christmas. I get it.
Yeah.
Right. But anyways, this is a very, very interesting game, and especially watching it in the stands. Right. As KJ said, costly fumble at the absolute worst time is what led us to that victory.
Yeah.
And you got to give it to Santoso, man, the power of the mustache. Not only did he drill that one, and that was what, like a 51 yarder.
So it was funny when we were coming back from the game, I was kind of looking at the stats, and they had it marked as a 61 yarder. And I remember I told you, I'm like, I didn't think he was that far away. I thought it was a lot closer.
No.
Well, they updated it on the next day when I looked up into a 51.
Yeah. And now I will say, though, I mean, if you go back and you watch that video, you watch how accurate he is on that 51 yarder. He might have been able to carry a 61 yarder. Yeah. Now, granted, again, he was playing with the wind at his back, and I mean, it was just the most perfect conditions for a kicker. And,
did you make? I know you were watching the game, and I don't know if you made it through the whole thing, but when they interviewed the Houston kicker after his 61 yarder, and they were like, well, because it was in the same direction, and they asked him, like, well, how much did the wind have to do with the kick? And he was like, oh, it was a lot. It had a lot to do with it. And even the guy on the sideline was like, no, dude, you're supposed to say it had nothing to do with it. I was going to make that kick anyways. He's like, nah, dude, it was the wind.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't have that kind of, like, normally it was the wind.
Well, and see, I can appreciate that.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, I can appreciate that kind of humbleness,
Yeah.
Because in the NFL, 100% the kickers would have been like, oh, no, it was all me.
Yeah.
It could have been a gale force wind, and then I've been like, no, it was all me. I'm the one who kicked it 500 yards. That was me. Yeah. But anyways, this was a pretty good game overall. Like I said, very much a defensive battle. I'm a little concerned. I haven't seen any updates yet, but we know Akers went out with a concussion. We know Dormady struggled a little bit this game, and Kevin Hogan came in. Didn't really have a lot of opportunities to do a whole bunch. I mean, he did go 5 for 7, but he only went 38 yards.
But you know what? And obviously the pass that doesn't make it onto the stat sheet was that 10-yard 3-point conversion. And that was a beautiful pass to Latimer.
Oh, it was perfect, man.
It was right over the linebacker. Like it was a beautiful pass. So
yep. And the one thing I will say, I am hopeful that Dormady isn't getting too terribly shaken by this. I don't believe he's getting the start this next weekend. I believe we are going with Hogan. But I don't want him to lose confidence, right? There was a beautiful, beautiful route that was run, and he was almost right on the money. And if it wouldn't have been for the safety having the football IQ that he did to read what was, the play that was breaking down, there's a beautiful crossing route where the receivers ran to the end zone, inside guy cuts hard left, outside guy cuts hard right rather. Outside guy runs arc to the left, basically runs the backs into each other. Well, the safety that was on the outside guy saw the play developing and immediately broke coverage and went after the intended receiver, which was the post right guy. And he broke up the play. He almost got a pick off of it. But if it wouldn't have been for that guy, that would have been a touchdown right there.
Man, poor Dormady, dude. He, like I said, he was getting killed in the game, but also, man, dude, there was probably 4 or 5 drops this game by receivers. Man, it was not a good game. What I think I said last week that this needed to be our get right game, and we didn't get right. We got lucky, but man, I was I was not impressed.
Yep, and 2 costly fumbles, right?
Yeah. Well, Well, three costly fumbles because Dormady got sacked and fumbled.
That's true. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, we had 4 turnovers. So 4 turnovers. Losing the turnover battle 4-1, still winning the game. But that's positions you shouldn't want to put your defense in. And I mean, we're hella lucky that our defense only gave up 4 field goals that game.
Yep.
The positions they were put in, yeah. I mean, that was absolute credit to the defense for that game.
Yeah. So if you go back and look at the stats, right, I think it's important to note that Lovett dropped 5 of the 10 passes that were thrown his way. And Stevenson dropped 3 of the passes that were thrown his way. So that's something that we definitely got to tighten up for this next week. We're going to be playing Arlington in San Antonio. Arlington's been eliminated from the playoffs. They really got nothing to play for. However, that doesn't mean that they're going to go softly on us, right?
Oh no, they're looking to ruin our day.
Right. This is a pride game, and pride games can be just as dangerous. So San Antonio better make sure that they're tightening up those receivers. I mean, stick them on their hands, do whatever you got to do. I don't care, right? These guys cannot drop the ball like they did this last weekend, or we're going to be in for a world of hurt, man, because we're chasing first place just like St. Louis is, and we've got to win out. We have to beat them, and we have to beat Arlington, and we've got to beat Birmingham. Yeah, right? That's the only way we're going to be able to get home field advantage over St. Louis.
And we've talked about it. Right now we're at a point, win out, and we're in first place. So that's whatever else happens, because we'll end up, we went out, we're beating St. Louis on the final week of the season. That gives us the tiebreaker, or puts us 1 game ahead. Yep. So we don't need to rely on maybe DC beats St. Louis, or maybe they drop one, whatever. We have to handle our business. So
yeah. Now I will say that I think comparing the two, San Antonio has a little bit easier of a schedule. Okay.
I would disagree with that.
Now let's look at the schedule. Okay. Full schedule. We're going into week 8.
Right here. I don't know.
St. Louis has DC at home.
St. Louis is playing DC, yeah.
Right. But DC is dangerous. We've got Arlington. Okay.
Yeah. But that's next week. Or that's this week. Who's St. Louis playing next week?
Oh, that's right. They're playing Arlington.
Yeah, and we're playing Birmingham.
Right.
And then we're playing each other.
It is a little bit of a trade-off. It is a little bit of a trade-off. So I would say maybe then that probably about equal strength of schedule.
Well, Birmingham's better than DC, so that's the tiebreaker.
St. Louis found that out this week, didn't they?
They did. So
let's talk about that, because I think it's important that, we talk about who was right and who was wrong on their pick'ems this week.
Well,
and I don't think it was me.
I don't. Okay.
Real quick, what's up, Elizabeth?
Full disclosure.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, while we're doing, our shout outs to everybody, definitely, hey to the Traveling Brahmas crew. Loved seeing you guys in Houston. Definitely want to shout out to Mike G with the AFN network. We saw him in Houston as well. It was a lot of fun hanging out with him. And oh wow, I'm gonna get to that comment in just a bit. We definitely also want to give a shout out to our friends at Pro Arena Talk, because they definitely helped us out with some arena football information that, with this whole fiasco with the AFN going on. They've been on top of just about everything.
AFL, not AFL.
AFL, I'm sorry.
God, you and names, dude.
Man, shut up. But we'll get to all that in a bit. But anyways, yes. So you were saying.
So our picks from last week. Obviously, we both picked the Brahmas. We were right. Yes. We both picked DC, and we were way wrong. You picked Memphis. You were wrong. I picked Arlington. I was right. And we don't remember who we picked in the St. Louis Birmingham game.
Yeah, 100% don't remember.
And I was actually going to go back and watch last week and see who we picked, and I just didn't get around to it. So, and I know last week it was kind of a coin toss for me. I think we both went with St. Louis, but I'm not sure. So I'm going to eventually go back and, look it up and see what we actually picked. But yeah. But even aside that was a hell of a game. I mean, I think
it was a
kind
really
of
good
why
game.
it was a tough pick for both of us because we knew it was going to be a crazy, intense, just really close game, and it absolutely lived up to the hype.
Yep. And I'm just as curious to find out, who our picks actually were, because I'm looking at the situation now and trying to figure out why I would have picked St. Louis in that game on the road against Birmingham if I did in fact pick St. Louis. Maybe I was looking for the upset. I don't know, but I don't know. I mean, especially now, I don't know that I would have picked St. Louis over Birmingham. Although, I mean, we all know my love or lack thereof for St. Louis. But we also know that Birmingham is number one and somebody's got to dethrone the king. So maybe that's what I was going for. I don't know. But anyways, yeah. So our picks were kind of not exactly where we thought they would be. I definitely did not see Michigan blowing out DC the way they did.
Oh, dude, that was just ugly, man. Yeah. And honestly, it kind of pissed me off because of how we played against them the week before, So
yeah, Michigan did to DC basically what we did to Michigan,
Yeah.
So theoretically, we should have done to DC what we did to Michigan, and instead they flipped it on
really,
us.
You're absolutely right. We should have. For whatever reason we didn't, and
well, I'm going to blame that loss on you for not being there.
You know what? I'll take that one. All right.
Okay.
So,
but yeah, so it was definitely a good weekend for football for some teams. Other teams, a little bit rough. What up, 210 Bramasita? Right? That's our girl right there. But yeah, again, things did not turn out exactly what we thought that they were going to, and so it was a little bit interesting, just to see some of the games. But that St. Louis Birmingham game was definitely a game worth watching. It didn't really matter what side of the coin you were on, or if you didn't even have a dog in that fight. That was some good football. So
yeah, it was, and I mean, I think there's, obviously AJ, his ankle injury, he's day to day, and who knows what's going to happen to him, moving forward. Which, I mean, if he's out, St. Louis is pretty much done. Like, they don't have their backup quarterbacks. I don't think are going to be able to carry him. No, now, I want to ask you a question about that, his ankle injury. You see a lot of in the Facebook groups and all that stuff, people commenting saying 96 was a dirty player for going for that ankle twist and doing all that. He should have been, kicked out of the game, all that. You call that a dirty play?
I don't know, man. That's a tough call to play, or a tough play to call, make a judgment call on. I don't know that I necessarily saw intent per se. But how do you measure intent? Like, how do you see? I mean, unless you see the offending player specifically targeting, eyes locked on, looking at a specific part, I think it was just an unfortunate coincidence. So,
I think the initial, kind of going down, going to the legs. I don't think that was intentional, but he did grab his ankle and roll and was like holding on to the ankle after the play was over. That was definitely intentional.
Okay. I could see that. I could see that.
Is it dirty? Like, should he have been kicked out of the game? I don't think so.
Well, no, but
it's got it. I mean, he was definitely towing a line. Now my next question, follow up for that is, his AJ's got an injured ankle. You're that Birmingham defense. Do you go after him again?
Do you or should you? Right, because those are two different questions. Okay.
Is it dirty if you go after him again?
Yeah, it is.
Well, he's playing on it. He's constantly playing out there on a bad ankle. I mean, if let's say let's say he had some bruised ribs, and he's going out there. Is it dirty to hit the guy in the ribs? Hit him a little extra harder? I mean,
what's up,
what's
my
up,
guy?
Marco?
Yeah, I mean, it still is, right? Because you're trying to take an unfair advantage, right? You're trying to take advantage of somebody's weakness. But on the same token,
do with football, if somebody's weak against the run, you run the ball. If somebody's got some sore ribs, you kind of tackle them on that side.
like Ben Kurt, right? Last year with the broken ribs.
Yeah.
I think to answer your question, the best response I can give to you right now is that it's a gray area, right? Is it ethical? Probably not. Like if you've got to take advantage of a player's weakness in order to gain an advantage, probably. I mean, maybe you should be relying more on your skill than brute force and punishment. But on the same token,
well, then if you're like a 6'6" receiver, the quarterback shouldn't throw up if he's throwing to like a 5'10" cornerback because that's just using an advantage.
Yeah, I mean, again, right? But those are natural advantages. This then becomes an unnatural. This is like a handicap, But again, like I said, it's football, right? And that's kind of the name of the game. I mean, it's a brutal game.
I'm gonna say, dude, if you're out there and you're injured, you're within reason, you're fair game.
Okay.
If you're gonna go out there on a sore ankle, then you're putting yourself at risk. And hey, maybe I don't pull back on a tackle.
Right. Okay, but then let's flip the script. Let's flip the script real quick. Right. Let's go back to Bountygate. Minus the actual targeting, right? If Brett Favre would have gotten hurt and continued to play, would it be dirty of them to continue to go after him?
I mean,
it's a legit question.
If he's out there, you're kind of fair game. That's I did not think that Bountygate was as big of a deal as everybody made it out to be.
It wasn't, but it's a good, valid reference.
Did I don't think Peyton deserved like a year suspension. Like, okay, yeah, was it kind of crappy that they were getting, bonuses for like, tackling people hard and stuff like that? I don't know, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's a fine line that any commissioner of any kind of football league is going to have to walk when trying to encourage, full effort, but take back some of the violent tendencies of the game. I mean, football again is a violent game. It's a game in which you are trying to knock the snot out of somebody else, and cause them to make some kind of a mistake. We saw one hell of a hit in the Houston game, right? Our defensive backs, was it was one of our cornerbacks, I think, knocked the snot out of a Houston receiver.
Yeah,
right as he was catching up.
Yeah, it was on that pass. It was on that pass
on that deep pass.
Should have been a hold, which was another one that Blandino screwed up. Should have been a hold. Yeah, the receiver caught it. Oh, the cornerback came just knocked the crap out of him. Oh, that was a fantastic hit.
Right, but the guy got up and was like, "Look, caught the ball." Right.
Yeah.
So again, right, it's like trying to tame a wild beast. I mean, like, how much are you expecting to actually get out of this? So, there are some things where you do have to worry about player safety. Just like horse collar tackles, face masks, things like that, ankle tackles, whatever else. Yes, Mr. Predator, he did catch it.
He did catch it. He held on to it. I mean, that was right. That was a hell of a catch.
Right.
I mean, it never should have gotten there because it was an obvious hold before that.
Oh,
but it was still a hell of a catch.
Yes. And Mr. Predator is right that this is not the football that we all grew up with, man. I mean, look at like the Joe Theismann injury, like one of the most famous injuries in football. You can't do stuff like that now.
Yeah. Well, who it was oh God, what was his name that had the same injury for Alex Smith?
Yes.
When he had Alex Smith. Like 5 years ago, whatever it was.
Yes. And he just recently started walking normal again.
Yeah, something like that. But you know, I mean, and go back to that. You know, we
real quick, Moose Johnson, right? We saw him. We talked about it last week. We got to, we met him in DC, and he came over and shook our hand, right? And then I saw his hand. These three fingers are normal. This one is over here, right? So it's literally his hand is like this, okay? And it's from being a wide receiver in the National Football League. His hands are all busted up, and I mean it's a violent sport. But Moose Johnson is not. He didn't play this version of football. No.
I mean, this was, obviously, we're kind of talking about old good times and stuff, but that, back at ESPN used to have that segment called Jacked Up, where they would show the really hard hits of the week. They stopped doing that a few years ago once, kind of all these concussion lawsuits and all that stuff started coming about. So, You're
right. So, no, actually,
we have not talked about that yet.
Yeah, we have not talked about that yet. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. Let's real quick catch up on some of our other stuff, right? This week is going to be a really important week, right? We've talked about it a little bit. We definitely talked about it on last night's show. But if you go over to the Horns Forward podcast, there's a special QR code with a link to tickets for this Sunday's game. Now, you can get tickets just about anywhere. It's not a big deal, but these are kind of important because that QR code will take you to a special link that allows you to buy tickets where the proceeds will actually be going to benefit a local charity. Brian, you want to talk a little bit more about that charity?
Yeah, so it's the Down Syndrome Association of South Texas. And yeah, every ticket that gets purchased for that link is $5 goes to that charity. So I'm gonna share my screen here. Hold on, I pushed the wrong button.
I've got it up if you need it.
Nope, I got it right here.
Go for it.
So yeah, right there. So scan that QR code, get your ticket and $5 donation to the Down Syndrome Association. Obviously, fantastic charity. We want to raise as much money as we can for that group. So yeah, get your tickets. If you don't have tickets yet, go to there. If you do have tickets, hey, go up there, get a ticket, and give it to a friend. So
yes. Now, I think I was just going to say, I think it's also worth mentioning, and we can't reveal too many of the details, so you're going to have to keep your eyes posted on the San Antonio Brahmas Facebook page or on any of their other socials or whatever. But we're actually going to have a pep rally this weekend.
Yep.
Okay. And it's going to be at El Camino over on Avenue B from 4 to 6 p.m. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff going on there, man. So if you don't have anything going on Saturday, make sure you show up. I mean, there's talk about, certain specific people being there. There's somebody really famous that's going to be there. But again, I don't want to ruin all the details and everything like that. I'm going to leave that to the Brahmas, right? I don't want to steal their thunder. Right. But make sure you're keeping an eye out for that because this is going to be an incredible opportunity. Potential meet and greet kind of thing. And a great way for San Antonio to kind of rally around and, show our support for the team who's really out there busting their behinds for us.
And, it's not just for the Brahmas. We got, Marco down here for the Los Banditos, they're invited to it as well. This is kind of a like a rivalry, pep rally and stuff for our, our little I-35 rivalry. And, with that, anybody who's, coming from, Dallas area or anywhere else is coming to town, I don't have it queued up, but there is actually a special, one of the hotels downtown has a special deal for a hotel room for the night. They're offering shuttle to the game, to the Alamo Dome for the game and back. lots of cool stuff. So we can we can post that as well. But it's kind of a cool thing that the teams are doing, kind of coming together, kind of trying to build that I-35 rivalry.
Yep. And I forget exactly what it's being called right now, but I believe it's the San Antonio Brahmas 35 Renegades rivalry something or another. So you'll have to check the Facebook page. Again, it's going to have all the information as far as the QR code, or I'm sorry, the link for the hotels. Feel free to reach out to us. You can message any of us. We'll get you that information. We should be posting it on either on the Texans Soccer Football Facebook page. Also, I'm sure it's going to be if it's not already there, and I just haven't found it yet. I'm sure it's on the Horns Forward podcast page, and you could always message 210 Baramasita as well, and she can get you pointed in the right direction, because she's the one who does all the hard work for us, and we just sit here and look special. So now, speaking of special, this weekend was kind of special for San Antonio, right? It was kind of last minute double win situations, right?
It was 2-0 again.
Yeah. So San Antonio beat Duke City Gladiators. Now, that's a little bit misleading, right? Because Duke City was 1-6 going into this game.
Yeah, we don't care about that. We don't care about. They got the win, Jason. They got the win. That's all that matters.
They got the win by 3 points, though.
They got the win. They got the win.
Just like we got the win by 3 points.
We got the win. They got the win. You know what?
That is true. You know who else got a big win this weekend, though?
Who that?
Frisco Fighters. They played the which should be the defunct Jacksonville Sharks. No offense, Brahma Babe.
Jacksonville Minnows.
Yeah. Bobby, I mean, I guess
35-point loss.
Yeah. I mean, it was brutal. It was like, I think Frisco probably spotted Jacksonville those points. And I mean, it was just brutal. So Frisco's on a tear now that they've kind of figured things out and they've smoothed out their, first 2 or 3 game rough spots that they had. They're back to looking like the Frisco of last year. They are, let me look at the 2024 standings.
I mean, they're 6-1. Obviously the one loss was us, but
yes,
they're still the class of the league. Them and the Vegas Nighthawks, who's 7-0. So
yeah. And who saw that? I mean, we knew the Vegas teams were going to be, pretty tough because they were last year, but taking off like that 7-0, man, that's brutal. And then San Antonio, right here, look at this. So Frisco's rolling without their star QB, and that's pretty impressive. So that's awesome. Now,
hey, Gunslingers, we're sitting at 3-4 though. So I mean, it's not great, but hey, it's still respectable. We've got a long season left. So
yeah, and I mean, there's only one way to go, which is up, right? So.
We still got 10 weeks of football left, so probably a couple buys in there, but we're just barely over halfway point of the season.
Yeah. So this next week, San Antonio is going to be playing Tulsa Oilers. This is going to be a pretty good game because both teams are at 3-4, and they're hungry and they're looking to try and make that climb. And so it's hopefully the good guys win, but this is not necessarily going to be an easy game. Tulsa did lose to Green Bay this last week, 42-22.
How are you going to score 22 points in an arena game?
I don't know. We've seen worse. Okay. And then Bobby's right here. San Antonio started out with one of the best rosters in the league.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, things just weren't really clicking until recently. So maybe we've reached that turning point. That we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Maybe San Antonio is finally now starting to fire on all cylinders. Well, if that's the case, then the rest of the league better look out, man.
They've got the offense to do it. They've always had the offense to do it. Their defense, man. They can't stop anybody. And that's kind of the reason that the game this past week, against Duke City was so close. Duke City wasn't a great team record-wise, but, they hung 53 on them. So
yeah, I was going to say
that defense needs to learn how to get some stops.
Yeah, well, and that's up to the coaching staff and the defense to make some personnel changes and stuff and start getting those lockdowns like they were kind of used to last year in the NAL. What's up, my guy? It's my H-Town guy. So Frisco's going to be taking on Green Bay in Green Bay. So that's pretty much going to be a win for them. So I wouldn't really be worried about that. But there are going to be some other great games to watch. So again, if you're around a TV this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, in between UFL games, there's always YouTube. You can hit up some of these IFL games. And I mean, it's an incredible, sport to watch. It's not exactly the same.
It's a fun product to watch, man. I really enjoy it whenever I tune those games in.
Now, speaking of fun products to watch, maybe not so fun for Corpus Christi, but Corpus Christi received their first loss this week.
Man.
Okay. I don't know how that happened. Okay.
How are you going to lose to Amarillo?
Well, and so it's funny that you mentioned that. Our friends over at Pro Arena Talk, we were actually discussing this in our chat with them. And it was kind of like that Houston-Arlington situation last year, in which we thought for sure that the third meeting, Houston was going to run all over Arlington while we were doing that Fiesta Flambeau parade, right? And what happened? We were sitting there getting ready for the parade, watching the game, and what did we see happen?
No, obviously, Arlington won, but I mean that was a lot of
Arlington opened it up, man.
There was a lot more behind that. Obviously, Arlington they had the new quarterback coming in and all that stuff. This one was just absolute shock.
Right.
I mean, Amarillo has not been that good.
No.
Year. So for them to come in, this was like Orlando beating DC last year.
Brian, are you sitting down? Are you prepared? You're not ready for this.
What?
What do you see? Actual box scores.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
What?
I know.
No way.
This is amazing, guys. We poke fun of the AIF a little bit. Great organization, but as far as their website stuff, they tend not to update so well. Now it looks like they're finally on top of it, and it looks great.
Well, they have a box score, but do they have any stats? That's the next question.
I mean, there you go.
Oh, look at him go.
7 of 21. Okay, that's going to be a problem right there. I can guarantee you that.
Oof.
Right?
Yeah.
7 to 21. That's no good, but he still threw for 117 yards.
14 incompletions and 4 interceptions. Golly.
Yeah, that's horrible. But going back to the summary,
that's that Jameis Winston passing right there, man.
Yeah.
Pre-LASIK, just squinting and throwing it down.
Yep. So you can see Corpus got out to an early lead in the first quarter. 14 unanswered points to bring him back to a tie game in the second. And then the third quarter, it looks like a different Corpus Christi team showed up because they only hung 8 in each quarter, and Amarillo hung 12. So, that's.
Did Corpus forget they had a game, or did they borrow the AAL2 team like Philadelphia did a few weeks ago?
I think they did, because I think the Corpus Christi Hooks were playing that night, and so they all wanted to go to the game.
That must have been what it was.
Yeah. So, again, this is amazing for us because Corpus Christi has been on a tear. They've been pretty much unstoppable, and they've already played Amarillo twice this year and trounced them. Well, they trounced them once. One game they gave them a 2-0 because Amarillo didn't even show up. I guess they didn't have enough money for bus fare.
No, the 2-0 was the Mississippi one.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
My bad. But again, right, San Antonio, Corpus Christi had not lost to Amarillo up until this point. Now they have, right? And so that kind of changes the playoff scenario. So looking at the standings, you've got Columbus Lions alone at 4-0. Corpus is now 4-1, and then
I mean, it's still going to be Columbus and Corpus,
yeah,
in the championship. So it's not going to change any of that, but it's just surprising,
yeah. Solrak, we'll get to that in just a second. There's actually another question we needed to talk about first before we get down to that one, and I'm gonna have to go back and find it. So yeah, that's what's going on with Corpus Christi Arena Football League. This has been kind of painful.
The gift just keeps giving right there. I mean, that's
yes. If you want to talk about the demise of something, this is the place you need to be. So I'm going to bring up some pictures and kind of show you guys where things stand with the AFL. Okay. So we're starting out here, the AFL South. You got the Desert Hawks at 3-0, and then the Predators at 0-2. Then you have Louisiana Voodoo at 1-0, but they're defunct now.
I was like, why are they grayed out, Jay?
Because they're defunct. Georgia Force 0-2, because they're defunct. And then we're going to go to the Central Division, right? Liberty 2-0, Regulators 1-1, Storms at 1-2, Iowa Rampage is at 1-1.
Well, look, they're grayed out too.
Because they're defunct.
What?
Yes, dude. AFL West. Billings is at 3-0. I cannot remember who this was.
Oregon. That's the Oregon.
That's Oregon. But they're grayed out too.
They're grayed out too.
Right?
What?
At 2-0. At 2-0.
No way.
No way. Rapid City Marshals at 0-2, and they're still around. And then I don't remember this team, but they're 0-3. So it doesn't really matter. But they're still there. Okay. Look at the East. The Albany Firebirds 2-0, Nashville Cats 1-2, Minnesota Myth 1-1, and one and done. And then you got the Philadelphia Soul
1-1 and done.
Yep. You got Philadelphia Soul at 0-2 and done. Like, what is going on here, man? This is just insane. Look at okay, we already did the South. Desert Hawks moved from the NAL to the AFL to specifically be in a bigger stage, more competition, the ability to be able to make a bigger name for themselves. And the league is literally falling down around them. And this is after they cleared their legal troubles with the NAL. Remember, we haven't talked about it since last week, but up until earlier this week, well, probably about the middle towards the end of last week, Desert Hawks were still tied up in litigation with the National Arena League because of the breach of contract.
Yeah.
And so they managed to figure that out for an undisclosed amount, which means that they paid their way out of it. And only to come back to this, right? It's like, oh, there's somebody knocking at the door. I'm going to leave my food cooking on the stove real quick and go talk to this guy. And when you come back, the whole house is on fire. It's pathetic, man. And I feel so bad for the Desert Hawks. I mean, they tried to make what they thought was a smart move and, play on the prestige and the nostalgia of the AFL. And this is what they get. Yeah. So next year, maybe NAL, but
I mean, and to be fair, kind of the teams folding, that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg with it. Obviously, the commissioner was removed from his position, stepped down, whatever happened internally. He ain't there no more.
He got told to leave.
Yeah. Is you can't fire me, I quit. Maybe it was one of those things. Who knows?
Oh, like Rod Woodson?
Yeah. And so, Jeff Fisher is now taking over the league as the commissioner, Mr. 9-7 himself.
Yep.
But, Jeff Fisher's a hell of a guy. He's
a smart businessman.
Great businessman. I think this is good for the AFL to move forward.
Yeah. Well,
the teams that are no longer there were problem teams owned by the league, didn't have a steady venue, not being paid, all the stuff that, a team should have they didn't have. So this is, and I think we've talked about it a lot before, the influx of arena teams, and eventually the weaker teams are going to get left behind, the stronger teams are going to rise. This is that. The teams that were weak are now getting cut out, and the stronger teams are moving to the top. So, it sucks right now, but really, both of us want the Arena Football League to survive because we're such fans of the league from back in the day, so we want that glory to come back. And I think this is good for the league for that to happen.
Hopefully. I mean, we'll see how things develop, but again, definitely shout out to our friends at Pro Arena Talk who are helping us, keep track of all this information and everything while we just broadcast and be goofy. So
yeah, they're doing all the legwork. I mean, really, they know way more about arena football than we ever will. So they're telling us what's going on and we're reporting it. So thanks to those guys, they're awesome.
So I think it's also important. There's some speculation, on PAT's side, and maybe some rumblings within the league. But because of the loss of the teams and everything like that, they're talking about potentially a mid-season restructure. And it looks like they're going to be going down to 2 conferences, the East and the West, and the surviving 5 teams will be put in each, one of the 2 conferences. So it looks like, Albany, Orlando, Nashville, Salinas, and the Regulators will potentially be in the East if this is actually something that could come out. And then in the West, you've got Rapid City, Billings, Washington, obviously our Desert Hawks, and the Southwest Kansas Storm. I think based on geographic locations, this is probably the best thing that the league could do to cut down on some of these expenses, restructure, what's left of the season, try and save a little bit of face here, and still, make it a viable product, because it sounds like these markets are still pretty healthy and viable. So, we do hope that works out for them. Now, we were going to kick over and talk about, the NFL stuff and, the schedule release and Detroit being Detroit and doing what makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I think we've got some good questions that we definitely want to talk about here first, right? So first and foremost, IFA, right? For any of those folks who have not heard about the IFA is the International Football Association. This is a league. Well, it's a startup league that has been trying to get the last 4 or 5 years, if I remember correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
And they've run into a lot of issues because you're talking about international play, right? You've got people from Mexico that are going to be joining teams down in Mexico. And if I remember correctly, I think it's an 8-team league, 4 teams from Mexico, 4 teams from the United States. Hearing that San Antonio was getting a team was kind of new to me because we've been trying to follow this for a little bit, but things kind of went dormant for a while. So we kind of forgot about it, let's be honest. But if I remember correctly, the last I'd heard it was supposed to be Dallas, Canton, and one other city in the United States. I can't remember where it was, but it was someplace that didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So maybe they've revised
kind of
that.
What I'm seeing just on kind of their website. So targeted locations were Dallas, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, Huntsville, and yeah. So yeah, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, and Huntsville were their target cities. Obviously, if San Antonio is getting a team, one of those dropped off. They said Dallas is getting one. So unsure right now who the other 2 are. But
yeah, so Cincinnati, not Canton. That's the one that to me didn't make a whole lot of sense. But we're definitely intrigued, and the head coaches that have been announced, that's some pedigree stuff. Maybe not Wade Phillips level, but you've got some knowledgeable cats that are going to be jumping in here. It is going to be very interesting to see, kind of how all that breaks down. We just don't have a whole lot of information on it. But we're excited. We're supposed to be finding hopefully something out here in the very near future. There's supposed to be some.
There's supposed to be a press conference. I think they said it was going to be in San Antonio, early June. I think like the first or second week of June.
Yeah.
So hopefully, they'll release a lot more information,
mm-hmm. and I'm just excited for this opportunity because now you're talking about expanding a game that has essentially primarily been exclusive to the United States, minus like Green Bay, for example, is going to be playing in Rio. I'm sorry, I think they're playing in Rio, aren't they? I know they're playing in Brazil, but I thought they were playing in Rio specifically. But they're playing on a Friday night, like. That's fine. That's a great, experience for the fans down there, for the players, who could just jump on a plane and fly down there and afford it anyways. Even, the guys on the practice squad. So, it's kind of like the Pro Bowl. Like you went to the Pro Bowl just because you got the free trip to Hawaii. But you didn't really care about the game. So I'm hoping that that's not the case here, but either way, right. That's great that we're trying to expand the brand out to other places in the country. But this is a little bit more, this is a little bit more personal. This is a little bit better. I mean, these are going to be local kids, from down in, Central and South America and those areas that are going to actually be playing football. And that's, primarily an American sport. I'm hopeful that this doesn't become an issue, but, there might be some issues with, international visas and stuff like that. So they can, in fact, those teams can come here to America and play. But I'm sure, there's really smart people behind the scenes that are working this out to make sure that everybody can get back and forth to where they need to go and be able to work and do their thing. Right.
Yeah.
I can't believe a league that's been, grinding behind the scenes and making progress too, I might add. Okay. I don't want to make it sound like, they've been doing this for 5 years and not getting anywhere. They are making progress, but obviously they're taking their time and they're trying to make sure that they've got everything. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We could spend time dusting off our 4 trophies that you guys don't have any of. I'm just saying. But again, right. It's going to be really interesting to see how the IFA kind of starts developing and what happens with that. So yeah, we're excited about it and we'll be definitely talking about it, especially if we get a San Antonio team. Now there's one more post that we definitely wanted to talk about, right? And this is from Soul Rack, right? Texans with Diggs. What do you, I mean, it's a little bit soon to maybe be predicting playoffs.
I know. I would absolutely say they're making the playoffs with their team this year. I think his next post was see that's too soon. But I think they are definitely front runners in their division, and obviously saying a team is a lock to be in the playoffs 3 months before the season kicks off is a little crazy, but they are in a better position than anybody else in their division to be in the playoffs. So
sorry, I've got some dad things to do. Hang on.
So yeah, and Vanessa, right now, I mean, KC, it's their their championship to lose, their conference to lose, and Baltimore, we'll see. They were a hell of a team last year. Let's kind of see how they come back. I know that was kind of a bad loss for them against KC in the championship, but Texans, they're one of those teams that's kind of in the short list for obviously making the playoffs. I still think they've got a lot before they can be considered a contender, but they're moving in the right direction. Unlike the other team that's in Texas.
Yes. What team would that be?
Oh, that would be my Dallas Cowboys. But hey, it's still our year. All right.
And that's the one thing I was just going to say. The one thing I love about your realistic approach is that you're not the guy that curses Dak all season long, and then as soon as, hey, what's up, the XFL Mike G, what's happening, baby? So good seeing you in Houston, by the way. But you're not the type of guy that curses Dak all season long, and then 20 minutes later, hey, we're going to the Super Bowl next year, right? Like, you're not that guy, and I appreciate that because Dak's not that guy, as you've said a million times. Oh, hey, while I'm thinking about it real quick, shout out to Brahma Bulletin. They've been doing some really good stuff covering the Brahmas, and so if you're looking for just Brahmas stuff, they're another good source besides Horns Forward podcast. Of course, we're a little bit biased on that. A little
biased, if we do fix ourselves, but it's all right.
But I'm going to be realistic. Also, we made some pretty good moves in the draft and everything, and we've done some pretty decent things in free agency, but I don't think we've done enough to necessarily change our luck. I think Love is going to be much more comfortable in his skin this year, but I think we're still going to wind up going to the playoffs and going out if we make it. I don't see us going past maybe the first round.
I think y'all might take a little step back. Love's a good quarterback, but there's a chance. And honestly, it's kind of the same with CJ Stroud. Obviously, Love's been in the league for a few years, but it was his first chance to start. So, but this is we could have like a bit of a sophomore slump. Now you've got a year of tape on these guys, and you can kind of counteract those and scheme better and plan better for these quarterbacks.
So I would agree with you if it was his sophomore year, but this is his senior year. Okay,
but he redshirted
Stroud
for 3 years. So
he redshirted for like 5 years behind Rodgers. Okay, the point is, I don't think you're going to run into that same slump because he's had game experience before. This isn't like CJ Stroud, who basically went from the frying pan into the fire, right? And took the world by storm. I think this next year, people are going to be watching CJ a little bit more closely, and they're going to be, making sure to adjust defenses to play, to play against his strengths.
And I also think, the teams around you are getting better.
That is true.
Chicago, they did pretty good in the draft. They got a couple damn good players.
Okay, but Detroit made the playoffs, and what did they do?
Well, Detroited.
Exactly.
But, you know what? They've got their quarterback locked up for 4 years. I mean, they're going to give them, I forget what was the number. I texted it to you.
It was like ridiculous, like $40 million a year or something like that. It was just obscene.
212 million for a 4-year deal, 170 of it guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that's over 50 million a year.
Yeah, that is just obscene.
Which, thank God, that's not the deal that the Cowboys were going to give Dak, because that was what because obviously Goff was the next one in line. So and it's always the next quarterback in line it's the big contract, and Dak was in line, and the Cowboys told him, you know what, why don't you just play out your deal on your last deal on the contract? You go to the back of the line, and if you actually do something, then maybe we'll talk later.
Yes. But in the meantime, the bizarro Michael Cera gets $212 million. I mean, it's ridiculous, dude. Come on. Anyways, yeah, a lot of craziness there. So NFL, gonna NFL. Solrak, I mean, yeah, Jacobs is going to make a difference, but I don't think he's going to replace AJ. Like, that's not, it's just not the same. So I think it's going to be decent, but, whatever. But anyways, okay. So lots going on this weekend. We've talked about it before. We have got Arlington and San Antonio, right?
We haven't made our picks yet. We're gonna have to remember what they are. I'm gonna write them down this time.
Write them down. Oh, go old school, baby.
That's right.
Go analog. Let's go. Okay, Memphis versus Michigan, right? I'm picking Michigan on that one.
Yep, I am too.
That's a solid pick. Lock it. Houston versus Birmingham. Houston, I love you guys. You know, I guess you could pull off a miracle, and I'm hoping beyond hope that you can, because that helps us out. But Birmingham all day, man. That's an easy pick. DC.
You know what? I hope Houston pulls the upset of the season and beats Birmingham. But sorry, Houston, I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, but we would love it. We would love it if you do, especially in Birmingham.
I am rooting to be wrong on this pick.
Yes, especially in Birmingham. I would love to see you guys smoke them in their own house. Sorry, dadding over here. You got to give them the snaps, man, or they don't know.
Oh hell, that snap's coming.
Yep.
All right, DC against St. Louis. Remember, St. Louis just beat DC in their home a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
which snapped their massive home game winning streak.
Mm-hmm. I think,
and they just got rolled by Michigan last week.
Right. So but they're going to be coming back with a vengeance.
He's going to come back out pissed off.
I'm going to say a lot of it's going to depend on who's on the field. If AJ's out there, then that's going to be a St. Louis game. Okay. If AJ does not start, then DC has a chance, and I would pick DC. So it's going to come down to, that one to me is too close because it's all dependent on certain players.
We're making our picks now, so you got to make.
You're right. You're right.
Ain't no politic in here. All right, make a pick.
I'm gonna say St. Louis on this one. As much as I hate to say it, right? Battle Chickens, unfortunately, are a good team, and they gave Birmingham everything that Birmingham could handle. So I'm picking St. Louis on this one.
Looks like we're gonna have we're gonna have the same picks this week because I am picking St. Louis as well.
Okay.
And obviously, we're both picking San Antonio against Arlington. Funny thing, not funny, but if these picks come out correctly, and St. Louis and San Antonio both win, then DC's eliminated from the playoffs. So obviously we've already got Birmingham and Michigan. Is going to be the playoff matchup for the USFL side. Just waiting on who's going to be the home field advantage. Probably going to be Birmingham, obviously, but they could drop a couple. And so if St. Louis and San Antonio win, then those two teams are going to be in the playoffs. So.
Sorry about that. Dadding.
That's all right.
It's tough work. So 100%. I think we're all locked in on that. We talked about the IFL. I'm definitely rooting for San Antonio. I think they've got it. Bobby himself said that, Oilers are on the downswing. San Antonio's on the upswing. Trying to catch up on information here. It's this guy. Hey, Jeremy, did you bring your Easter Bunny costume? Did you bring this costume or that costume or whatever?
No, what? He said nothing. He said nothing.
He doesn't need to.
And you were the one that brought it up. All right.
You poked the bear.
Now you're going to be like, you always bring up the Easter Bunny costume. Why didn't it be the Easter Bunny costume?
I take the power away from him.
You know what?
I take the power away. That's how you do it.
It's like Jorge complaining about Arlington.
Oh yeah,
that's
true.
Man, I wish bring it on yourself. Then you're gonna complain about it.
You should show that meme. But we won't.
That meme has bad words in it. All right.
Yes. San Antonio is getting the win over Tulsa. Obviously, we're our friends. Frisco is going to beat Green Bay. It's going to be an interesting game. Corpus Christi is going to be. Are they playing this weekend? I believe they're off this weekend, and then they've got the last game in June 14th, which is the playoff game. Arena football. I don't know what's going on. We'll figure all that out. International football, make sure you're keeping your eyes peeled about that.
They said probably a month from now is when they're having their press conference.
Mm-hmm. So, Brian, I think that's pretty much all we got. Again, folks, make sure you go to the Horns Forward podcast page or our podcast page, scan that QR code, get your tickets that way if you haven't already gotten them. If you have,
distribute it out, invite your friends, tell them, post it on your socials. Mm-hmm. We all have work, people we work with, tell the people at work. I've, sent out emails with the link and the code, just to get people coming. We want to get butts and seats for these games. We got 2 more home games.
And $5 of every ticket gets donated, right? That's really important. So make sure you're doing your part to help out a local San Antonio charity that does really, really, really good work. That being the case, Brian, I think that's pretty much all we got, man.
Yeah.
This guy. Everyone should grow a Hogan stash. Man, ain't nobody got the strength to be able to handle that kind of mustache, bro.
Man. So you remember my when I had the Fu Manchu?
No, I actually don't. I really don't, and I don't want to.
You know what I mean? I can find that picture. Hold on.
I'd rather you didn't. Right? I don't want to scare off our guests that are here. Okay, folks, that's all we got time for tonight. We are 11 minutes over our scheduled time, but we love you so much. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. Shout out to all of our friends, Pro Arena Talk, AFN, all that stuff. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. We'll get there.
You know what? I'm gonna leave y'all. I'm gonna leave y'all with this.
Whoa. We're out.